glasses. Number 2, look above the glasses. Number 3, But now that I notice that I in front of serious people,
so thank you very much for the entertainment. Unfortunately, we didn't know that God would favor us with the rain. It is all flooded nicely. So, but we hope to dry before His Excellency goes so he can be able to go to visit what is there. And I trust people speak French. People speak French, have got the translation equipment because they are becoming now necessary. In the next session, there will not be anyone who speaks English because they are all going to speak in English, so there's no French-English translation. That will be tomorrow. But for the coming session, those who speak whatever, but it also is assuming you can be able to walk to a venue. The venue is at the swimming pool. So you are all invited after the ceremonies here. I'm sure you all recall, those of you who have just arrived, places of convenience, out. Within the hotel, not out. There's a free umbrella. You have to wait. So in case you want to go at the back, imagine you'll be rained on. Let me get some feedback, then I will keep you posted. Arriving at 9, it is done. The key arrival station, the video will be shown shortly. And from there, we expect the main guest is already around. He's on having meetings. We expect him to arrive here anytime. Meanwhile, those who are coordinating the videos, please, one for tourism and one for ACOA. Can we put them on the screen, please? supposed to sit at a high table to move forward. That John Mwanga, the Accountant General of Uganda. Sorry. The Auditor General of Uganda, sorry, my apologies. John Mwanga, the Auditor General of Uganda. Anthems.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu, jumuiya yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Na hata mashambani tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tulijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Somebody come and say prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, the President of Uganda, Your Excellency, Dr. Zuma, Honorable Minister of Finance, Matia Kasaija, Honorable Minister of State for Finance, David Bati, Members of Parliament, Your Excellency the Ambassadors, the President of the Institute, Council members, and all invited guests. Protocol observed. Your Excellency, the people you see here is the African Congress of Accountants, which brings together all the accountants from Africa and beyond than 200 delegates. For more information and more enlightenment, I'm inviting CPA Begumisa to come and give you more details. CPA Begumisa, you are welcome.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellency, Madam Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Your Excellency, as present, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the President of the International Federation of Accountants, the President of the Pan-African Federation of Accountants, the Auditor General of Uganda, the Accountant General of Uganda, honorable members of Parliament present, council members, past presidents of the Institute, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, this is the day we've been waiting for. On behalf of the accountancy profession in Uganda, I take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this 4th Africa Congress of Accountants, ACOA 2017. In a special way, I would like to warmly welcome His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, to this Congress. Our President is an ardent believer in Pan-Africanism, and the Pan-African Federation of Accountants, PAFA, our continental body, is a symbol of Pan-Africanism. Allow me, the Public Accountants of Uganda, Your Excellency, the former chairperson of the African Union Commission. She is our keynote speaker today. And Madam, we are very... Ms. Rachel Grimes, the IFAC President, I warmly welcome you to Africa, and most especially to Uganda. Madam Asma Resmoki, the PAFA President, thank you for keeping the accountants' fire burning in Africa. The Auditor General, Mr. Mwanga, and your Deputy, Madam Keto, the Accountant General, Mr. Lawrence Semakura, and your Deputy, Mr. Sem Goma, the Chairmen of Committees of Parliament, the CEOs and Presidents of accountants organizations in Africa present, the past CEOs and Presidents of ISPAO, the current Council members, I welcome you, and I'm happy that you are here with us. To each of you participants, you are welcome to Uganda, the power of Africa, Karibu Sana. And to our sponsors, thank you for the generosity. The Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda is grateful to PAFA for the opportunity to host such an important and historic event. When the Institute was announced as the host of the 4th ACOA in 2015, it has been growing from strength to strength. Today, we boast of 2,400 members, 3,000 associate members, and over 6,000 students. Now release over 500 professional accountants into the market, and they are playing a big role in both the private and public sectors. Your Excellency, this conference has attracted over 1,200 delegates, of whom 500 are from outside Uganda. The theme of the Congress, Transparency and Accountability, Transforming African Economies, places accountants at the center of Africa's development. The theme emphasizes the profession's role in Africa's transformation. Professional accountants have a central role in growing businesses that will transform our economies. We also have a responsibility of helping our governments to make better decisions for national development and transformation. We, the professional accountants of Uganda, believe that to transform this country, we need to do some of the following. One, to improve Uganda's productivity. Our output per person is still low. Countries that have grown tremendous frontiers. Your Excellency, allow me to thank you for the effort. Number two, investing in infrastructure. Investment presupposes that we have saved fast as a country, And therefore, we should be careful in the way we spend all the revenue we collect on recurrent expenditure. We need airlines, we need railways, we need good roads, both national and local roads, our own savings, and we should not be shy also to borrow, but sustainably. We should build strong institutions governed. Good leadership is key to building strong institutions, Mr. President. Number 4, innovation and technology. We are lagging behind in this area, and we risk being left behind by the rest of the world. Let's all support those with creative minds in this area. Number 5 is education. We have done the basics in this country, but there is a need to examine the curriculum and make it more practical and relevant to the emerging environment. We still teach our children the things that were probably important 50 years ago, but may not necessarily be very important today. The methods of teaching need to be upgraded in several ways. These are some of the few points that we have come up with. I believe participants will come up with more ideas, and the Institute will compile a report that we shall share with the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. We are also grateful that one of our members, was appointed a minister, and I'm referring to Honorable David Bahati. He has been of tremendous support to the Institute and the accountancy profession in general. Your Excellency, the Congress program has brought together excellent and knowledge. Let's ensure that our respective professional accountants organizations are empowered and strengthened to play their roles. Studies have revealed that the presence of a vibrant, regulated accountancy profession in a country is a key enabler to national development. Your Excellency, there is a group of people in the country who call themselves accountants, yet they are not our members. They do substandard work and sometimes commit offenses, and this gives a bad name to our profession. The professional accountants you see in front of you are good global citizens and they do their work with integrity. But when they misbehave, they are disciplined by their professional bodies. And in our case, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda has a disciplinary mechanism, and we have disciplined a number of them. But those who are not our members are not disciplined by anybody. Dear delegates, Uganda is a very beautiful country with a warm-hearted people and beautiful sceneries. I encourage you to spare some time and visit the many tourist destinations in the countryside, including the national parks, the source of the Nile, the cultural heritage centers, the gorilla sanctuaries, the snake sanctuaries, to mention but a few. No doubt, the journey of 1,000 miles you have made will remain memorable and an indication that Uganda is a true part of Africa, a land truly gifted by nature. I'm confident that in the near future, majority of you, our delegates, will come back to Uganda as tourists and you enjoy all that the power of Africa has to offer. Your Excellency, in August this year, the Institute is celebrating 25 years of existence and service to Ugandans. Allow me to extend a warm invitation to you, my President, to grace this important occasion too. I thank you in advance. Finally, Your Excellency, we are working on a mega project in Rubowa, where we intend to construct our headquarters, a convention center, a hotel, and other infrastructure. We require over 100 billion for this project, and we will come partnership with the government so that we can realize our dream. Thank you. Thank you all for supporting us. I wish you an exciting Congress. May I now take the honor to invite to invite Her Excellency Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma to address the Congress. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Auditor General, and Five Public Accountants of Uganda, the President of the Pan-African Federation of Accountants, the President of International Federation. Some ideas at this gathering of the Fourth African Congress of Accountants, because here I believe are gathered some of the sharpest minds of our continent. We celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Organization of African Unity, now the African Union. And of course, when you celebrate the decolonization of Africa and the destruction of apartheid in Namibia and South Africa, we also, at that time, had some of the fastest growing economies in the world. We had moved from what some called a hopeless continent to what the same people called a rising continent. And so we took a moment to reflect, but as the late Nelson Mandela said, that you cannot linger to climb, there are many more hills to climb. So we also decided to reflect on, okay, this is 50 years looking back, but what are we planning for the future? There was a long debate about whether we must have 5-year plans, 10-year plans. Eventually we decided we're looking at 50 years. And that's why we call it Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Because 2063, the continent will be celebrating the centenary of the Organization of African Unity and now the African Union. But also, it was important to plan in short timelines, like 5 years, 10 years. You get constrained by your immediate circumstances. You get constrained by your immediate challenges to draft this framework. But we decided to do things differently. We decided to start by consulting sectors in our population, rather than having bureaucrats drafting and consulting women, young people, youth, workers, artists, faith-based organizations, business people, professionals, and many others. And from that, we had the first draft, which gave us a pretty good tapestry of what our people's aspirations are for this continent. So after that, and so we eventually had what we have now, the Agenda 2063, but of course you can't implement something that's over 50 years. So we then developed a 10-year, but of course, Agenda 2063 is not cast in stone, it's a living document. We will have to add, amend as we go along. So, actively on a common agenda. It also reaffirms the commitment to unity, solidarity, Pan-Africanism. African allows us to chart the way towards an integrated, to integrate it into their national plans, because it means it stands a better chance of being implemented than if it was just a document that is. But at the end, like Kwame Nkrumah and many, many more, And Kwame Nkrumah said, I quote, "The unity of Africans will challenge imperialism and neocolonialism. It will ensure that the riches of Africa are Africa, not time achievements, but in the long-term achievements as well." And so these are some of the thoughts that inspired Agenda 2063. So if it's based on riches, the first that we think is the most important of these resources and the most precious one is our people. Africa has 1 billion strong. So clearly we are a growing population, but also a young population. By 2025, a quarter of the world's under 25s would be African. So this is a resource that we need to invest in, and if we do, we can reap the demographic dividend. But if we don't, it could be a big liability. So we need to invest in their health and also in education and skills. And in Agenda 2063, we talk about skills revolution in Africa, because we need all skills, from the high-level skills right down to the artisans. And we need to pay particular attention to the STEM areas, science, technology, engineering, and maths, but also pay attention to innovation and research, as well as the financial sector. And we also believe that if we give our people the right skills, they will be able to create jobs, and or even the fastest way of equalizing, bridging the gap that was created and the poverty gap that we have. So we think education and skills are the most important. The second important resource that Africa has is our land, and of feeding ourselves, but also contributing to feeding the world. So we shouldn't really have problems or challenges with food security. We need to modernize this product to process what we grow. At the moment, we have a very difficult situation that consumes what we don't produce. That we do 90% of the processed food that we consume. We could create jobs, we could increase our revenue by process. It's not rocket to agro-process, and to develop agribusinesses. So that's the second issue that we must look at. And of course, markets both in the continent and beyond. The third area that we thought was important was also mentioned just now, infrastructure. First, the energy infrastructure. Africa needs to generate a lot more energy than we are. And that mix must include fossil fuels. Because I'm emphasizing this, so our view is that we must have a mix. And as the president of Uganda likes saying, that we are exporting jobs with those raw materials, because whoever then produces the finished material gets the job for doing that. And of course, we also export revenue that we would be getting from finishing and adding value to our goods. But we'll be creating the most needed jobs for our people and creating wealth for our people. So we must move away from just exporting raw materials. We must industrialize. It shouldn't be difficult to produce them. So we need to develop a pharmaceutical industry, a vibrant pharmaceutical industry in this continent. And of course, we also need to document and develop our indigenous knowledge systems, because we know some of our indigenous knowledge systems. The other area that we have to look at when we industrialize are coastal countries. No, they are important. 90% of a country inland or a coastal country, we still export and import most of our goods. Seafarers in those vessels. I was talking to the Norwegians about the blue economy, because most of their economy is really based on the oceans. And they were saying they don't even have enough people to work on those vessels. They train Thais, Filipinos, Chinese. Why aren't they training Africans? Because they are bringing and taking stuff out of Africa. So we're discussing with them that they should start training Africans. And even the consumables that are consumed in those vessels that leave our ports, go away and come back into our ports, are not ours. So that's an area we must pay a lot of attention to. We don't own the fishing vessels that we see on our oceans. The companies that deplete our fish stock are not ours. So we need to pay attention to that. We also need to pay attention to tourism. Africa, in my view, not that I've traveled a lot, but where I've traveled, I think I can say without fear of contradiction that we have the most beautiful continent on earth. We just need to develop our inland tourism. We need to develop our coastal tourism. We even need to develop our floating tourism. Those who live huge cruise ships that dock in our ports, people come out with cameras, they take photos of us, and they go back into those ships, and it's our sea. So why can't we own those? Why can't we see a lot of speedboats? When I was showing my kids the resort where I was going, they said, "Oh, we thought Uganda didn't have a sea." So I said, "No, they have an inland sea." But I mean, we can really develop these beautiful countries of ours. We need to develop our hospitality industry, but also develop our companies. We're not saying we're chasing people away that are already there, but we have to also develop our own and work in tourism. And tourism, there's water sports, there's a lot of things you can do in the water. And we should train our marine owns the companies that mine in Africa? Who owns the companies that lift oil and gas out of Africa? At least if we don't own them, we must have joint ventures with them. Because we cannot have our resources taken. Yes, they pay royalties, but our resources must be part of our equity, and we must have joint ventures in its cultural diversity. And the cultural industry can be big films, crafts, so that this can be a big industry and is set to grow for a very long time. 2000, our share was 60%. Today, our share is only 20% and declining. That is collective share of all the African airlines. And why? It's because we took a decision as the AU in Africa, the Yamoussoukro decision, that we must create a single African aviation market. But we have not implemented that, and that's why our market is shrinking. Our share of the market is shrinking. So we need to make sure that we do. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, we should change our mindset. Some of us, especially the African elite, pride ourselves in having imported furniture, imported clothes, fashion. But why can't we develop the industry to the same standards as what we import? But because we have the raw materials, we have the cotton, we have the leather, we have the logs, we have everything, but we send cotton and buy fabric or garments from elsewhere. So industrialization is very important, whether it's agriculture, whether allow us to increase intra-African trade, intra-African continent trade. All the other continents trade within the continent, but Africa's trading partner, it would be somebody across the seas. But if you ask the Europeans, it would be somebody in the neighborhood. If you ask Americans, it would be somebody in the neighborhood. If you ask Asians, it would be somebody in the neighborhood. So that must change. And we must speed up the continental free trade area. And this will also assist us in increasing our global share of trade. But we need also to pay attention to integration, which is very important. And we can start with the things that are easy to do: free movement of people and goods, common African passport. I think is trying. We also need to have democracy, good governance, fight accountants said, free of corruption. And that's work in progress on the continent. There is progress, and we must continue to progress. Rights must also continue. The other important thing that's in Agenda 2063 is silencing the guns. We think it's very important and urgent that guns must be silent on conflicts. It doesn't mean that they will not go. We must hold on and make sure that, remember that some of the conflicts are not states. Development will not be bought off by extremists to go and carry guns for a small amount of cash. So we need both legs, development and peace. And of course, we need to make sure that we look at all the institutions, financial institutions, we look at services, and we should also invest our sovereign wealth and our pension funds in the continent. And we'll get more returns actually on the continent than we do investing outside. We also need to take care of our environment. We must push back the desert, the frontiers of the desert. We must we pour into the sea globally a year. We pour about, and their economy is growing, their people are continuing, life is continuing, because we seem to think plastics are now part of our lives as a whole. An example. We also need to make sure that the big part in driving this agenda 2030. In the economy, it is clear that companies, and there's research to back it up, that the presence and participation of women in the leadership of companies, those companies are more competitive. Their revenue and output is better than the companies that either have very few or no women at all. So having women in business is not only their right, but it's also a smart thing to do. The President of Banking, Mary Ellen Iskandarian, puts it most eloquently, and I just want to quote her. There is a strong connection between women's access to financial products and services and greater opportunity, not only for that woman herself, her family, her community, but also for the nation as a whole. And those are the kinds of developmental changes that can really have a long-term intergenerational as a sector. To contribute to the implementation of Agenda 2063 from your perspective, the accounting sector is a very important sector. I think in anything and everything that I've mentioned, accounting, as accountants, you are going to contribute to this important agenda. But I also want, we don't think we are as good as anyone. Talent, processing kids, and but that talent. So we must have that mindset that is useful and that will give prosperity to this continent. I also just want to end my talk by saying that we must have our own narrative. We must tell our own stories. Because the people who tell our stories don't know our story. They may know a single aspect of that story, but we know our stories. And as an African proverb goes, that if lions don't have historians, the hunt will be told from the perspective of the hunter. So we must be our own historians so that we tell our own story. Let me end by quoting one of my favorite African writers. He's amongst my favorite African writers, Ben Okri. And I want to quote from his book, Ways to Be Free. And he says, I quote, "They tell me that nature is the survival of the fittest. And yet look at how wondrous gold and yellow fishes prosper amongst the silent stones of the ocean beds, while sharks continually prowl the waters in their impossible dream of oceanic domination, and while whales become extinct. How many butterflies and iguanas thrive while elephants turn into endangered species, and while even lions growl in their dwindling solitude. There is nothing like a powerless people. There are only those who have not seen or have not used their power and will. It would seem a miraculous feat, but it is possible for the undervalued to help create a beautiful new era in human history. New vision should come from those who suffer most and who love life the most. It is only by establishing a common destiny and outlook that we can overcome and prosper. So I think, in the words of Ben Okri, we are not powerless. We can change our world. We can change human history.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda would like to give you a small gift in appreciation of your nice speech. Thank you.
On behalf of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda, our President is handing over the token of appreciation to His Excellency, the President of Uganda. At this juncture, I call upon the Minister of Finance with his remarks and invite the guest of honor to address us. Minister of Finance, you are welcome.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellency, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, you are the former chairperson of the African Union Commission, my colleague, the Minister, Your Excellency, the Ambassadors and High Commissioners, the President of the International Federation of Accountants, the President of the Pan-African Federation of Accountants, the President of the Institute of Certified Public Accounts of Uganda, honorable members of Parliament who are here, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, about just less than a month ago, you came here and addressed a meeting similar to this, but composed of auditors. Today, we have invited you to come and address accountants. Accountants, you sir, they are the gatekeepers of our financial resources. Then the accountants, the auditors, check whether the resources have been properly utilized and have been properly kept. So, sir, I'm extremely happy that you have been able to agree and accept my invitation to come and meet and say words of wisdom to people who take charge of making sure that our resources are well looked after and properly spent. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And to each of you, the distinguished delegates, I will welcome you warmly to the Republic of Uganda. The Institute of Certified Public Accountants was established 25 years ago, and although the idea of setting up an accountants institute was conceived by the East African governments of Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya in the 1960s, the act establishing ACPAU was only passed under your government, Mr. President, in the focus of the institute has been and remains to produce individuals who exhibit professional excellence, integrity, commitment to serve the environment in which they operate. Your Excellency, at the establishment of the institute, there were only 4 professional accountants in all the government. As I speak now, there are over 300 professional accountants working in ministries, departments, and agencies alone. There are many others working in the local governments and other public sector projects. This growth of number of professionals is a result of a deliberate effort by my ministry to enable our accounting staff working in government to obtain training and achieve the qualifications offered by ICPU. One point, Mr. President, this morning we received very beautiful words from one of our speakers that accountants, the role they play in economic development and growth is extremely, extremely big. So therefore, these people in front of you are your great allies, the allies of the African continent, which Dr. Zuma enhancing the growth of this country and other parts of Africa. Your Excellency, as a result of increase in our cadre of professional accountants, Our ministry has remarkable improvements in our public financial management system, although there is still room for improvement. In particular, we have successfully rolled out the integrated financial management system to most entities within the government. In so doing, we have saved our government billions of shillings due to improved accountability and financial reporting. As I have said, there is still big room for improvement. Your Excellency, my ministry has worked very closely with ICPU over the years, and I want to thank the leadership for having been up to the mark, particularly in coordinating with my ministry in organizing this conference. We have been impressed by the level of professionalism, dedication, and innovation of ICPU, which they have exhibited in managing the accounting profession. We have always received and valued their advice on matters of public finance management, taxation, and reporting. I would like to thank the Pan-African Federation of Accountants for striving to promote ethical conduct among accountants in the African region. Ethical conduct. Mr. President, you know the problems we are going through these days. Ethical conduct. I wish to encourage all professional accountants on the continent to continue acting in public interests. And I repeat this one, to continue acting in public interest and championing the cause of the economic development of our continent. You have heard what Dr. Zuma has said. We are therefore very proud to support the ICPU and the PAFA as they host the 4th African Congress of Accountants. This is a special moment for the profession and the country as a whole. I thank all of you for coming and I wish you fruitful deliberation at this exciting Congress. It's now my honor, Mr. President, to invite you to give the words of wisdom as you did to the auditors and as you have done elsewhere to this distinguished guest, this distinction or the audience. Thank you, Mr. President.
Our sister, Dr. Nkosazana Zuma, the former president of the African Union Commission, the Honorable Minister of Finance of Uganda, the leaders of the Accountants Union, and all the delegates who are here. I welcome you to Uganda. Where you are is the center of Africa. From here, by plane to Cape Town in South Africa, is 5.5 hours. From here to Alexandria in Egypt is 5.5 hours. That's why this is the center of Africa. If you have never seen original Africans, you have a chance to see them now. This is why the big rivers of Africa start here. One big river, the River Nile, flows to the north, starting in this area. Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. Then the River Congo starts on the other side and goes to the Atlantic. Therefore, you are right in the center of Africa. Africa is a very rich continent, as Dr. Zuma was saying. We have everything. But that is partly part of the problem. Is 12 million square miles of land area. That means you can put the United States, you put China in Africa, you put the whole of Western Europe, you put the whole of Brazil into Africa, and you remain with some space. That is part of the problem, actually. If you have a huge continent like this one, with a lot of natural resources, but with a small population, then you have some problem. The few Africans who live here, until recently, many of them did not know that it was important to work. This was because even a fool could survive here. In other parts of the world, fools don't normally survive. You heard what Dr. Zuma was saying, that the population of Africa is now, for the first time, more than 1 billion people. But this is not much. Remember that India, which is 1/12 of Africa in size, you can put India 12 times inside Africa. Even today, when the population of Africa has gone up, the population of India is still bigger than the population of Africa. So that problem of underpopulation was part of the problem, actually. I normally see some NGOs running around here with all sorts of confusion. However, the problem of Africa has actually been was one, not the only one, there were others, but one of them was underpopulation. You get a country like Congo, Kinshasa, DRC. It is the same size as India, but with a population of only 70 million people now. Somebody can stay in the forest, not doing anything, just picking the fruits. So there's that angle, the angle of, but the population has recovered. We don't have time to go into the why the population of Africa, because you remember, Africans are the original human beings. And all of you here are Africans. Some of you who stayed here, and some of you, the diaspora of Africa, when you see Europeans, you see Chinese, you see all these people, they are all ex-Africans, former Africans. And they didn't go long ago. They didn't go long ago. They went on about 100,000 years ago. That's when they started going away. The question is then, why did the diaspora multiply more than we who stayed here? There are reasons for that, but we don't have time to go into them. I didn't know that this was such a big conference. Otherwise, I would have sat down and written an essay for you. I only came to know that it was big when I saw Dr. Zuma. What is Dr. Zuma doing here? This must be, I thought these were the accountants of Kampala who had gathered here. But this Africa, very rich, now that the population is coming up, there is nothing that will stop us. Too small a population was not good. The whole of Africa was only 100 million people. Of course, the population had also been interfered with by the slave trade, there are all sorts of, there is nothing that will stop Africa from going forward. We have been having one problem. The problem of, in terms of resources, everything is here. If I take Uganda, for instance, very rich agriculture. There is nothing on earth which we don't produce. At least as far as Uganda is concerned, we don't import food from outside. Instead, we export a lot of food. You find Uganda has got a lot of agricultural potential and production, as in after India, coffee, all the things you can think of, grains, what have you. Freshwater resources, as you can see, the lakes, the rivers, and the fish which are there, the forest products, the very good tourist potential. I don't know why these people are suffocating you by closing these tents. They should open that side so that you can. Here we don't do air conditioning. The air conditioning is because these people have kept out the air. They are trying to suffocate you. I don't know why. Otherwise, if they opened there, you would be very, very comfortable with the natural air, without warming it, without cooling it. Minerals, a strong culture of production, indigenous production, livestock, crops, fisheries. So Africa is very rich in terms of the human resource now that the populations are growing, and also in terms of natural resources. There has, however, been one problem. The problem of ideological meandering. You see, like the children of Israel, when they came from slavery in Egypt, they spent 40 years in the desert, not knowing where to go. And yet Palestine was just a few hundred miles away. This has been the problem with Africa, ideological meandering. This is not unique to Africa. Even Europe had the same problem. You remember the Europeans had no civilization until Egypt. Egypt were the ones who pioneered civilization. Then the Europeans learned from us. They had some civilization in Greece, which went down. Then the Roman civilization, which collapsed around 450 AD. Then for 1,000 years, Europe was in what they called the Dark Ages. Chaos. Until 1400, after 1,000 years, that's when Europe started getting what they call Renaissance, the reawakening, the rebirth of knowledge. Even then, they didn't focus properly. There were so many people saying so many different things. There was, for instance, one philosophy called bullionism. Bullionism are bullionists are people who believed that if you steal gold and you steal silver, you become rich. Portugal and Spain excelled in that. They went to South America, killed all the Indians there, stole the gold, stole the silver, but ended up being the most backward countries in Europe. So it proved that bullionism was a wrong philosophy. Then there were people in France, philosophers, who were called physiocrats. These physiocrats believed that value was in agriculture, that agriculture was the most important thing. But you know very well that if you have got only agriculture and nothing else, there is no way you can modernize. They ended up also being wrong. Then you remember, in 1776, a Scotsman by the name of Adam Smith wrote a book called The Source of the Wealth of Nations. It was that book which helped the Europeans to know where to go. And Adam Smith was telling these people that what was important was specialization and exchange. That if you specialize in something and then you exchange with another one specializes in something else and you exchange, that's how you will create wealth. So you can see the time. Renaissance, 1400. Classical economists like Adam Smith, 1776. That's almost like 300 years of people not knowing where to go. Of course, Karl Marx also came in and also caused a bit of confusion. When Karl Marx came, he said, look here, only labor creates value. Only labor, the workers, the industrial workers are the ones who are creating value. All the others are wasting time. You know, of course, that one also has got its own veracity, but also its own mistakes. Because I think accountants are sort of quasi-economists, are they? I developed a bias against accountancy because there was a paper in economics called accountancy, and being a rebel, I didn't like it. I didn't like regimentation because the teachers said accountants in America, they write something on the right and something else on the left. And the ones in UK write on the left. No, I said, why? But accountants must be some sort of economists. And you know the factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. So that's why Karl Marx also caused some confusion. Because if you only have labor, but you don't have, for instance, entrepreneurship, there is some issue there. These days, when I went to give a lecture somewhere, I gave the old 4 factors of production. Then students put up their hand and said, you old man, you're out of date. There's a 5th factor of production. I said, what is it? They said, knowledge. I said, okay, thank you very much. Then that means there are 5. Therefore, this problem of ideological meandering, not knowing what to do, has really been the problem. We here in Uganda, we have been in that meandering for the last 50 plus years. Because Uganda had a lot of problems, as you may have heard. Uganda was a failed state because we had very many problems, political problems. But our political movement, which started as a student movement in the 1960s, and then became a resistance movement, and then became a political party, we have had time to synthesize a position. And for us, we say that in our case, I think we are out of the woods now because we have identified what we call strategic bottlenecks. In the 1960s, you would hear in the universities people saying, what is crucial is integrated rural development. But how would you sustainably have a rural development program if you don't have money, if you don't have income, if you don't have money? How would you do it? So that went on for some time, integrated rural development. Don't care about the towns, care about the countryside. Then after some time, other people came and say, oh, education. Education is the crucial factor. If you educate the population, everything will be all right. But the question is, if you educate the population, but you don't create jobs, what will happen? There is a country called Philippines. I was there once for a few hours. I didn't study very well. But when you go all over the world, you find Filipinos everywhere. In Europe, in America, even here, the Filipinos are there. And then there's another country called South Korea. The only South Korean I've ever seen outside is Ban Ki-moon. The one who was Secretary General of the UN. So I was wondering, why do the Filipinos go away and the South Koreans stay at home? Could it be because South Koreans have created jobs so that they don't have to go away? So the more we thought about this, that's why we came to the conclusion that no, you cannot solve the problems of Africa, of Uganda. In our case, we were struggling with Uganda by dealing with one factor. You need at least 10 factors to deal with, what we called strategic bottlenecks. I don't have time to go through all of them, but I'm in the bad habit of writing some books. There's a book here where I listed them. It has got a few. This is a trial copy. I had to correct it because I was insisting on old way of writing. And these publishers wanted the new way. I said, no, leave me alone. But the bottlenecks, I don't have time to go through them, but I could mention about a few of them. One of the bottlenecks is ideological. Dr. Zuma talked about the guns falling silent. What is causing these wars? It is ideological confusion. Some people decide to emphasize identity. Identity. I am this. I am a Catholic. I am a Protestant. I am a Muslim. It so happened that I am a cattle person, cattle keeper. And there are many cattle keepers in my area where I come from. However, those cattle keepers don't help me to buy my cows, because they also have cows. They have cows, I have cows. I don't buy from them, they don't buy from me. So what use are they to me? We greet in our tribal language in the morning, Yaganda, Ganda, that's the end. But if I want to send my child to school, I want to build a better house, they don't help me. The people who help me are the people of Kampala, because the people of Kampala, you see them, they don't have cows in their houses here. So they are the ones who buy my milk, they are the ones who buy my beef. So I become a rich man because of the people of Kampala, not because of the people of my tribe. So the question then is, what is more important? Is it identity or interest? In some cases, identity can become an issue, like in the case of South Africa, where the whites were saying Africans should not do this, should not. Yes, that was a problem which had to be solved. But after you solve that, where do you go? Should you pursue interest or emphasize identity? So that's one bottleneck, which is causing so much problem enough. Even here in Uganda, it was causing a lot of problem until we identified it and defeated it. So we call this ideological disorientation. If you have ideological disorientation, then you have other problems. The other problem is that you cannot build a state. You cannot build a capable army, for instance. If you are looking for people from your tribe to be the ones in the army, to be the ones in the police, how would you build a national army, which is acceptable? So one problem leads to another one. Ideological disorientation leads to a weak state. That's why you have got what we call ideological leukemia. You are suffering from the cancer of the bone marrow, but ideologically. And you know somebody who is suffering from leukemia cannot make his own blood. He must get endless blood transfusion. They put in the blood is finished, then they must put in again. That's how you get the UN now. The UN comes in to be the blood supply. People cannot maintain their own security. Why can I not maintain security in my country? And I must depend on the UN. That's a vote of no confidence in yourself. So that's another bottleneck. Now, then the other one, there are many, but I will give you the one, for instance, of infrastructure. If you educate, education is also one of the bottlenecks. We call it the human resource development. The human resource must be developed. Education for the children, health for them, it is one of the bottlenecks, definitely. If you have got a population which is not developed, it is one of the bottlenecks. But you must also deal with the infrastructure. If you educate people, but you don't work on electricity, you don't work on the roads, you don't work on the railways, that means that production costs remain high. Transport costs are high, electricity costs are high, railway costs are high. Therefore, you cannot attract investors. And if you don't attract investors or retain the ones you have, who will create jobs for you? And there are some situations I can even quote. Even here, we already have a lot of unemployed graduates here in Uganda because we sort of delayed in assembling these bottlenecks. Because we're in partnership with the World Bank, Banco Mundial, and with the IMF. They were emphasizing what they were calling macroeconomic stabilization. That if you have got a wound and you get cotton and you mop up the blood and the wound is not bleeding, it will be all right, even if you have not opened to see where the internal injury. That was the theory of the IMF. You mop up blood, don't repair the internal injury. As long as you don't see blood on the surface, the person must be healed. So we wasted a lot of time, but eventually we rebelled. We said no, bye-bye. And that's why we are moving now. So, infrastructure, so that you lower the costs of doing business, enough electricity, cheap electricity, so that when you educate people, they have jobs where they can work, and so on. There are one of the bottlenecks which Dr. Zuma talked about is the question of exporting raw materials. Africa, there is a conference they used to call them in Paris. I no longer hear them calling them now. It was supposed to be a conference of donors. Donors, you know, people call donors. People who help poor people. Now, I waited to be invited, but I was not invited. I don't know why. and yet I was a very big donor. How? We have been producing coffee for a long time, but when you produce coffee as a raw material, you get $1 a kilo. When it is exported to UK and processed into finished coffee, they get $14 in the past. I hear now they get even more than that. It has gone up. So that means that in 1 kilo of coffee, Uganda was donating about $10 to UK for many years. And it was not only coffee, it was cotton, copper, and so, all these products. So the question of who was donating to who? Now, all those are bottlenecks and others which I cannot, I will mention them in the speech because I don't know how long the conference is. Is it only today? The conference?
3 days.
Oh, they will give you my speech. I will have the written one. Where I would have summarized all these bottlenecks. So in the case of Uganda, we think we are moving well because we have identified these bottlenecks and we are trying to make everybody focus on them so that we have a competitive economy, have electricity, so that you have lower costs of doing business, and you can attract investors and create jobs for our population. One other bottleneck, which I can mention to you, was the problem of the small markets. See, Africa is a huge continent, as I told you, but it was divided by colonialism into 54 countries. Many of these countries are small in population. Therefore, when you produce, like in the case of Uganda, we are now producing about 4 million tons of maize a year, but we consume only 1 million tons. So we have a surplus of 3 million. And the surplus is growing. You take milk. We are producing 2.5 billion, 0.7 billion liters of milk. But these Ugandans are drinking only 800 million liters. That's why some of them are losing their teeth and so on, because they don't have enough calcium. So that means we have got a surplus of 1.9 billion liters of milk. Now, where do you say that? If it was only Uganda, by this time, those industries would have collapsed. They would not be sustainable. But we had foreseen this danger, and I must salute the African leaders. They saw it, they said no. In 1980, in Lagos, by that time I was still busy doing some other work in the bush, not here in the air, not in the air-conditioned room. Our leaders said no, they had seen the danger that we must have market integration in Africa. We must have the regional economic blocks. So that's how we are able to sustain these products. What is not consumed here is sold in the region, and that's how we are managing. So that's also another bottleneck. If we had not addressed the issue of economic integration, that would have been a bottleneck. And that's why we must address it even more, because even now there are still problems here and there. It's not as smooth as it should be. So if you deal with those bottlenecks, there's nothing that will stop Africa from But if you generate money, who records that money faithfully? That's how you come to Munyonyo now. And you see these accountants of Uganda. You say they are now 300 in the government. How many are they? 2,400 in the whole country. Oh, Katonda yebazu. Now you can see these are crucial people, because we can work hard, but if we don't have a cadreship of reliable record keepers, isn't an accountant a record keeper? Huh? What is he? Is his job to keep records properly? Huh? That's one. What is the other one? Tell me. Go and tell me. I'm Zindar.
Thank you, Excellency. Accountants are financial advisors to government, to the companies that employ them. Accountants, they keep records, they report.
Are they financial analysts also?
Yes.
Okay. But the accountants never advised me on the strategic bottlenecks. I think, therefore, these accountants of ours maybe operate at a micro level, a microeconomic level, because definitely we had a lonely battle to fight with the strategic, big battle, and these groups, all sorts of confusion, but. Yes, so what is the boundary between you and those who do project evaluation and so on? Is that part of your work? Project evaluation, NPV, internal rate of return, break-even point. So what then is the boundary between you and what we call quantitative economists? Where is the boundary?
Your Excellency, accountants do more than quantitative economics. It's part of what we go through in the process of becoming accountants. We handle taxation issues. We handle many things other than just quantitative.
Oh, so, okay, these are quantitative economics plus. Very good. So, therefore, now that in the case of Uganda, we think we have captured the crucial stimuli, minimum stimuli that are necessary for the economy to grow and also undergo transformation. Because we cannot continue talking of growth. If you have got growth without transformation, then that is stunted growth. When the baby is in the womb, the baby grows quantitatively. But at some stage, that quantitative growth must result into qualitative change. The baby must transition, the fetus must transition from being a fetus to being a baby. If it doesn't do that transition, then you will get a crisis. Therefore, the journey for Africa is that one, of growth, quantitatively, but also qualitative change. And these stimuli, which we have talked about, dealing with the bottlenecks, we don't think that we shall go wrong this time. And that's where these accountants become very crucial. Record correctly. But also, what is your name? Begumisa. You know, the African languages are very rich. That's the sentence. His name is a sentence, but collapsed in the name. If you have the English, you have the wrong.
I'm warning you. It's for your own good.
I won't obey you. You mean nothing to me. You're not my mom. You're nothing
Your
to
mom
me.
died. She's dead and she's buried.
We spoke on the phone. You were all happy, then you come here with a long face. Say something. Come on, say something right now.
I just killed a man.
This is for you to learn, young lady, to never disobey me.
Well, tell me about yourself. What do you do?
I prefer to be anonymous, okay? Can I ask for the bill, waiter, please? Bring us the bill, all right? Can we get straight to the point?
What are you doing? Huh? You were on the cell phone doing what? You were trying to send a message, you stupid woman? You left her alone. She was already sending a message to someone, then she erased it.
I heard what you're hiding at the Pleasure Palace. Is it true?
This only happens in the house of Samiris.
This is where you live?
Here is your order.
I think this is not exactly what we ordered. I ordered a Coca-Cola without sugar.
No problem. I can give you 0 calories, 0 sugar, and a great Coca-Cola taste. Here is the Coca-Cola 0 sugar that you ordered. You still look like you need a Coca-Cola. No! Why don't you look inside your bag? Enjoy.
Colonialism, there was endless trouble. After colonialism, the things collapsed completely. So, but we have stability now, and we have dealing with infrastructure. So now, ababazi b'ebitabo bwe tubayita, we call you. That's how we translate it, ababazi in our language. Now, this is your turn now. Keep the accounts properly, help with project evaluation. You said there were other things you also do, which I can't remember now. Then your country will grow. Fight corruption, your country will grow. And we shall, in partnership with our African brothers, we shall move forward. Even when there is chaos, if you have got one success story somewhere, it will influence even the areas which still have problems. We need some success stories. And I'm happy that you called this big conference. I didn't know it was so powerful. I would have come more prepared. I would even have come with a suit. But the Bible says, don't care about clothes, care about substance. So with these few words, it is my pleasure to do what? To declare the conference open.
Your Excellency, between us and yourself has been strengthened. And on behalf of all the gathering who are before you, we take up the task of supporting the development of Africa. Is it on? It's gone off. Your Excellency, in addition, all the delegates you see here, we come from all over the world. It is a bad weather, which is also a blessing to ourselves. But we have also arranged a very wonderful exhibition by our accountant to demonstrate that we can support the development of Africa. So if you can put on your gumboots and spare a minute or two, we'll be very grateful for you to come and visit our exhibition. Now, for those who are supposed to take the photo with the president, Mashambani, tufanye kazi zote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora, jumuiya yetu zote tuilinde, tuwajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu